Fine. So, everyone, good morning. Welcome to this session. Today we are going to start a new subject, Advanced Power Electronics. This is for BTech IDP, fourth year first semester. It is a MTech level subject. Already in your BTech, we have discussed about the power electronics. So, particularly, we'll just recall the basics. We'll call the basics from the power electronics, and then we will move to this new subject, that is advanced power electronics. Now, you people are already having idea about the power electronics. So, when we talk about the power electronics, particularly this power electronics belongs to two engineering streams. Is it or not? So, this power electronics belongs to two engineering streams. One is the power engineering stream, another one is the electronics engineering stream. So when we talk about the power engineering, is mainly concerned with the generation, transmission, distribution, and utilization of electrical energy at high efficiency. This is about the power engineering. And now when we talk about the electronics engineering, this electronics engineering on the other hand deals with the distortionless production, transmission, and reception of data signals at very low power level of order of few watts to milliwatts. So here when we talk about the power electronics, which is dealing with the two engineering streams, one is the power engineering stream and the one is the electronics engineering stream. Now when we talk about this power electronics, it is nothing but it is a subject that concerns with the application of electronic principles into situations that are rated at power level rather than the signal level. So it is also defined as this power electronics also defined as it is a subject that deal with the apparatus and equipment working on the principles of electronics but rated at power level. So it deals with the apparatus and equipment working on the principles of electronics, but the thing is that they are rated at power level. So in your power electronics, you have already discussed about this diode rectifiers, AC to DC converters, DC to DC converters, DC to AC converters, and AC to AC converters. These are all the things which you have covered in your power electronics subject, right? So now in this subject, in this advanced power electronics, first of all, we are going to deal with this modern power semiconductor devices. So first of all, here we are dealing with the modern semiconductor devices. So when we talk about this modern semiconductor devices, one second, I will allow the other participants who are waiting. Yeah, fine. So this modern semiconductor switches are the workhorses of the power electronics. So simply we say that they are nothing but they are the workhorses of the power electronics. There are several power semiconductor devices currently involved in several industrial applications. So there are several power semiconductor devices currently involved in several industrial applications. This power electronic switches works in two states, either fully on or either fully off, either in the conducting state or in a blocking state. So these switches are very important and crucial components in power electronic systems. So this, whatever the power semiconductor switches now we are going to discuss, they are very crucial components in power electronic systems. Now particularly which switch we say it is a good power switch. So what are the requirements, what are the properties it's supposed to have? So it's supposed to have a no power loss when on, no power loss when off, and no power loss during turning on and turning off, and it might be having a bidirectional quality and adequate voltage and current ratings and low turn on and turn off time. These are the things which we require for the good power switch. Now based on the turn on turn off characteristics, gate signal requirements and degree of controllability, the power semiconductor devices classified under diodes, thyristors, control switches. Now when we talk about the diodes, these are uncontrolled rectifying devices. Their on and off states are controlled by the power supply. So simply to say, when we talk about these power diodes, these are uncontrolled rectifiers, uncontrolled rectifying devices. Their on and off states are controlled by the power supply. Now when we talk about these thyristors, these have controlled turn on. These thyristors are controlled by turn on by the gate signal. After the thyristors are on, they remain latched in on state due to the internal regenerative action and gate losses control. So this can be turned off by another power circuit. So only these thyristors are controlled by turning on. Only we can turn on. Once the thyristor get turned on, the gate loses its control and we can't turn off it. So another separate power circuit is required to turn off this one. Now when we control this, when we talk about this controllable switches, and these controllable switches are nothing but devices are turn on and turn off. So these devices are turn on and turn off by the application of control signals. So when we talk about these controllable switches, another category, the third category, these devices are turn on and turn off by the application of control signals. The devices which behave a controllable switches are BJT, MOSFET, GTO, SITH, IGBT, SIT, and MCT. And now this TRIAC and RCT possess the bidirectional current capability, whereas all the remaining devices, such just now what we have discussed, that diodes, SCR, GTO, BJT, MOSFET, IGBT, SIT, SITH, and MCT are nothing but unidirectional devices. So this is about the classification based on the turn on turn off characteristics, based on the gate signal requirements, and based on the degree of controllability. Now one second, fine, I'm just admitting the other students who are joining now. Fine. My voice is audible to everyone? Please anyone respond to me. Is it clear, my voice? Please respond to me. My voice is audible. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Now when we talk about this power devices, now this semiconductor devices, this power semiconductor devices, what we're using here, the first one is power diodes. And when we talk about this thyristor devices, here in the case of thyristor devices, we're having SCR, silicon control rectifier, static induction thyristor, TRIAC, gate turn off thyristor, MOS control thyristor, and integrated gate commutator thyristor, that is IGCTs. Now in the case of power transistors, what we're having is BJT, MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, and insulated gate bipolar transistor, that is IGBT. And next what we're having is static induction transistor, that is SIT. Now in this session we are going to discuss about this IGBT, that is insulated gate bipolar transistor. Once again, I'm sharing the file. Yeah. So now in this session, we are going to discuss about this IGBT. It is nothing but what? Insulated gate bipolar transistor. It is a three-terminal semiconductor switching device that can be used for fast switching with high efficiency in many types of electronic devices. So particularly, it is a three-terminal semiconductor device that can be used for fast switching with high efficiency in many types of electronic devices. These devices are mostly used in amplifiers for switching or processing complex wave patterns with pulse width modulation. I hope that everyone having an idea about this pulse width modulation, right? In your power electronics, we have discussed about this pulse width modulation. Now here on the screen, it is clearly visible that the symbol of IGBT and the image. So it is nothing but a three-terminal device. Here we are having a collector, emitter, and the gate terminal. Now this IGBT, whatever discussing now, it is a fusion of both BJT and MOSFET. So this IGBT today, which we are going to discuss, it is a combination of BJT as MOSFET. The symbol of IGBT also represents the same. When you look into this symbol, it also represents the same. As you can see that the inside side represents the MOSFET with the gate terminal, and the output side represents the BJT with the collector and emitter. Is it clear? You just look on to the figure which is on the screen. So it is clearly represent that at the input side it represents like a MOSFET with a gate terminal, and at the output side represents a BJT with the collector and emitter. Is it or not? Now, the collector and emitter are the conduction terminals, and the gate is the control terminal with which the switching operation is controlled. This is the thing what we're happening here, what we're having here. Now, when we look into this basic structure of IGBT, once again, I'm just sharing the screen. Yeah, before that one, we'll have, 1 second, I will admit one more student to join now. Yeah, now, I already said this IGBT, whatever we're having, it is nothing but it is the fusion of both BJT and BJT and MOSFET. So what happens? It combines the best qualities of BJT as well as MOSFET. Is it or not? So it having the qualities of both BJT and MOSFET. It also had a high input impedance as MOSFET and has low on-state power loss as in BJT. So due to the combination of both BJT and MOSFET, it having the merits of the both. So it has the high input impedance as MOSFET and has low on-state power loss as in the case of BJT. So since this IGBT is the combination of MOSFET and BJT, they are also called by the different names. So they are also called by the different names, such as it also called as a MOS IGT, that is nothing but metal oxide insulated gate transistor. COMFET, that is nothing but conductively modulated field effect transistor. GEMFET, it is also called as GEMFET, that is nothing but gain modulated field effect transistor. And next, it is also called as IGT, that is nothing but insulated gate transistor. Is it clear? Yeah. Next, this is the internal structure of IGBT what we are having. This internal structure of IGBT is constructed with the equivalent circuit which consisting of 2 transistors and a MOSFET. So here particularly what we are having, just on the screen we are having the internal structure of IGBT. So the internal structure of IGBT is constructed with the 2 transistors and a MOSFET. Here we are having a NPN transistor and PNPN transistor. So the IGBT processes the output of the below combination of the NPN transistor and PNP transistor and NPN transistor and the MOSFET. This IGBT combines the low saturation voltage of a transistor with a high input impedance and switching speed of a MOSFET. So now here the output obtained from this combination delivers the output switching and conduction characteristics of a bipolar transistor. But the thing is that here the voltage is again controlled like a MOSFET. Is it or not? So the outcome obtained from this combination delivers the output switching and conduction characteristics of a bipolar transistor. But the thing is that the voltage is controlled like a MOSFET. Is it clear what I'm saying? So this is the internal structure what we're having of a IGBT with the 2 transistors and a MOSFET. Now here we are having a MOSFET we are using. Now when we come into the basic structure of IGBT, yeah, when we look into the basic structure of IGBT, this is the basic structure of IGBT which is on the screen. So here particularly in the basic structure of IGBT, it is constructed virtually in the same manner as the power MOSFET. So here it is similar to the power MOSFET, only there is a change in the P substrate. There in the case of power MOSFET, we are having the N positive substrate. That is, that N positive substrate is replaced here with the P positive substrate. Now everything will be similar to that one, to the power MOSFET. Now here there is a major difference in that is the substrate, the N positive substrate at the drain in a P MOSFET. In a P MOSFET is now substitute now substitute in the IGBT by P positive layer substrate called collector. This is the thing what we are having here. Here in the bottom, what we are having is P substrate P substrate. In the case of N MOSFET, it is N positive substrate layer what we are having. Now in a IGBT, the P positive substrate is called the injection layer. This whatever we having here, this P positive substrate, it is called the injection layer because it injects holes into the N negative layer. So why we calling it as the injection layer? Particularly it injects the holes into the N negative layer. The N negative layer is called the drift region. So particularly whatever here we are having on the screen, this P positive layer, we calling it as the injection layer, and wherever here we are having a N negative layer, we calling it as a drift region. As in other semiconductor devices, thickness of this N negative layer determines the voltage blocking capability of the IGBT. So particularly this the thickness of this N negative layer will determine the voltage blocking capability of the IGBT. Now here we are having the P negative layer is called the body of the IGBT. Now next here what we are having is, this is a P negative layer. P layer, we call it as the body of the IGBT. The N layer in between this P positive and P regions is serves to accommodate the depletion layer of PN junction. So which serves to accommodate the depletion layer of a PN junction. So this is about the basic structure of IGBT. Now here particularly this IGBT having a 3 terminals attached to 3 different metal layers. So here we are having a metal layers below the P positive substrate layer. We are having a metal layer which is insulated, through which a collector terminal is connected, and above the P layer also we are having the metal layer. We are having the silicon dioxide layer. On that silicon dioxide layer, this metal layer is insulated. So with the help of this metal layers, we are connecting these emitters and gate terminals. So here particularly what we are having here, the metal layer of the gate terminal is insulated from the semiconductors by a layer of silicon dioxide, SiO2. IGBT is constructed with 4 layers of semiconductors sandwiched together. The layer closer to the collector is the P positive layer. Just now what I have discussed. So the layer which is closer to the collector is the P positive substrate layer. Above that is the N negative layer. Another P layer is kept closer to the emitter, and inside the P layer we have the N positive layer. So inside the P layers what we are having the N positive layers. So the junction between the P positive layer and the N negative layer is called the J2 junction, and the junction between the N negative layer and the P layer is called the junction J1. So it's clear, I hope so, everyone. So this is about the basic structure of IGBT what we are having. Now when we talk about the working of IGBT, so to understand the working of IGBT, consider the voltage source VG connected positive to the gate terminal. So particularly here what we're doing, we are considering the voltage source VG connected positively to the gate terminal with respect to the emitter. Consider the voltage source VCC connected across the emitter and the collector, where the collector is kept positive with respect to the emitter. So due to the voltage source VCC, the junction J1 will be forward biased. So particularly here what we are having, due to the voltage source VCC, the junction J1 will be forward biased. Now when the junction J1 will be forward biased, J2 will be, whereas J2 will be, what happens, it will be get reverse biased. So since the J2 is reverse biased, there will not be any current flow inside the IGBT, is it or not? So here particularly what happens, so first of all again I'm repeating the same, the working, to understand the working, again I'm repeating the same. First of all, here what we're doing, consider the voltage source VG, I mean that is the gate voltage VG, connected positively to the gate terminal with respect to the emitter. Consider the other voltage source VCC connected across the emitter and the collector, where the collector is kept positive with respect to emitter. So due to the voltage source VCC, the junction J1 will be forward biased, whereas the junction J2 will be reverse biased. Since the junction J2 will be reverse biased, what happens, there will not be any current flow inside the IGBT. So due to that reverse bias of the junction J2, so what happens here, there won't be any flow of current takes place. So IGBT is on non-conductive state. Now, already here particularly what I said, initially we considered that there is no voltage applied to the gate terminal, is it or not? Now what I'm doing is, at this stage the IGBT will be in a non-conductive state, so I'm not applying any gate signal. So particularly I say that there is no any conduction of current takes place, so IGBT now in this state is in a non-conductive state. Now what I'm doing here, I'm just now,
Excuse me, sir.
yeah.
Sir, please explain how J1 is forward bias, sir.
See, particularly here what happening in this case, just now what I said, here particularly what I'm doing, this gate terminal with respect to, here we are having the voltage source VG. Just look into this one. At the gate terminal, what we're having a VG. This connected positively to the gate terminal with respect to the emitter. Is it or not? With respect to the emitter. Now, what I'm doing here, consider the other voltage source, that is VCC. This is a VCC what we're having. So this VCC connected across the emitter and the collector, where the collector is kept positive. Is it or not? Due to this one, where the collector is kept positive, with respect to where collector is kept positive with respect to the emitter. So due to the voltage source VCC, what happens here? J1 will be what happens? J1 will be forward bias. Is it or not? When that forward bias, due to that, next J2 will be what happens due to these connections? It will be get reverse bias. See here, it is clearly visible to us. Here we are not applying any gate voltage over here, but the thing is that by applying this VCC, what happens here? J1 will be forward bias and J2 will be reverse bias. Is it or not? This, and now VG is 0. VG, we are not applied VG. Now what I am doing initially, I'm slowly increasing the gate voltage. So if due to that one, what happens if we increase the applied voltage across the gate, due to the capacitance effect on SiO2 layer, the negative ions will be get. What happens here? The negative ions will be, it's clear what I'm saying? I hope that you got now. So now I'm applying the voltage across the VCC, across the gate VG. So what happens? The negative ions will get accumulated on the upper side of the layer of SiO2, and the positive ions will be get accumulated on the lower side of the SiO2 layer. This will cause insertion of negative charge carriers in the P region. So what happens due to this one? Due to the application of gate voltage, it will cause the insertion of negative charge carriers in the P region. So higher the applied gate voltage, greater will be the insertion of negatively charged carriers. Is it or not? Higher the applied gate voltage, greater will be the insertion of negatively charged carriers. So this will lead to the formation of channel between the J2 junction, which allows the flow of current from collected to emitter. So now it's clear. So due to that one, this will leads to the formation of channel between the J2 junction, which allows the flow of current from collected to emitter. The flow of current is represented at the current path. Here clearly it is seen here. So this path, whatever here, the flow of current which is shown in the figure when applied the gate voltage VG. If VG is increases, the amount of current flow from the collector to emitter also increases. It's clear. I hope that some of you having still some doubt regarding the working of this IGBT. I will share the notes of this particular working also. Next, when we talk about, here we are having notes of this working of IGBT. Now, when we talk about the types of IGBTs, so this IGBT is classified as two types based on the N positive buffer layer. So the IGBT that are having the N positive buffer layer is called the punch through IGBT, that we call it as PT IGBT. The IGBT that does not have an N positive buffer layer are called non-punch through IGBT, that is NPT IGBT. Now, based on the characteristics of non-punch through and punch through IGBT, they are named as symmetrical and non-symmetrical IGBTs. So the symmetrical IGBTs are the one that have equal forward and reverse breakdown voltage, and The asymmetrical IGBTs are the one they have only a reverse breakdown voltage. They have the reverse breakdown voltage less than the forward breakdown voltage. So the symmetrical IGBTs are mostly used in AC circuits, whereas the asymmetrical IGBTs are mostly used in DC circuit because they don't need to support voltage in the reverse direction. Because particularly what happens here, they won't they don't need to support the voltage in the reverse direction. Now if you look on to the differences between the punch through IGBT and non-punch through IGBT. In the case of punch through IGBT, there are less struggle in short circuit failure mode and has less thermal stability. And this when we talk about this non-punch through IGBT, they are more rugged in short circuit failure mode and has a more thermal stability. And next, another difference here, we are having the collector is highly doped positive layer. The collector is a highly doped positive layer. And in the case of non-punch through IGBT, the collector is lightly doped positive P negative layer. Now it has a small positive temperature coefficient of on-state voltage. Hence, parallel operation requires great care and attention in the case of a punch through IGBT. The temperature coefficient of on-state voltage is strongly positive. Hence, the parallel operation is easy in the case of a non-punch through IGBT. Now, another difference here we can see that the turn-off loss is more temperature sensitive. Hence, it increases significantly at higher temperature. And in the case of non-punch through IGBT, the turn-off loss is less temperature sensitive. So it will remain unchanged with the temperature. So this is about the differences between the punch through IGBT and non-punch through IGBT. Now, operation of IGBT as a circuit. Now, here we'll look into the operation of IGBT with the help of this circuit. Here, what we're having. So, the circuit consisting of a combination of BJT and a MOSFET. So, now we'll look into the operation of this particular circuit. Now, this internal circuit, what we're having on the screen, will includes both BJT, two BJT here we're having, and one MOSFET and a JFET, and we're having a JFET. The gate, collector, and emitter pins of the IGBT are shown here clearly. The collector of NPN transistor is connected to PNPN transistor is connected to NPN transistor through JFET. It is clearly visible on the screen. So here particularly what we're doing here, the collector of the PNP transistor is connected to NPN transistor through a JFET. Is it clear? The JFET connects the collector of the NPN transistor and the base of the PNP transistor. It's clear what happens here. The JFET connects the collector of the PNP transistor and the base of the PNP transistor. So these transistors are arranged in a way to form a parasitic thyristor set up to create a negative feedback loop. So particularly this forms a setup to create a negative feedback loop. Now here we are having a RB resistor which is placed to short the base and the emitter terminals. Particularly here we are having a resistor named RB here on the screen, which particularly placed to short the base and the emitter terminals of the NPN transistor to ensure that the thyristor does not latch up. Particularly which ensures that thyristor does not latch up, which leads to the latch up of the IGBT. So the JFET used here will signify the structure of current between any two IGBT cells and allows the MOSFET and supports most of the voltage. Is it clear? This is about the internal structure with the.
So what is meant by latch up, sir? Latch up.
So when particularly what happens here in this case, when it is latch up in sense, particularly when in the conductive mode, particularly in the conduction takes place, we calling it as a latch up. such that the insertion of insertion of I mean the insertion of holes negative charge, what we say that insertion of minority charge carriers takes place. Now, when we talk about the switching characteristics of this IGBT, so here we are having one example with this. We'll discuss about the switching characteristics of the IGBT. One second. So, the IGBT here, what we're having is a voltage control device. Hence, it only requires a small voltage to the gate to stay in the conduction state. So, it requires only a small voltage to get to the gate to stay in a conduction state. And since these are unidirectional devices, they can only switch current in the forward direction, which is from collector to emitter. So now a typical switching circuit of a IGBT is shown below. The gate voltage VG is applied to the gate pin to switch a motor from a supply voltage supply voltage. The resistor RS is roughly used to limit the current through the motor. So here particularly what we are having the resistor RS, which is used to limit the current through the motor. So now when we talk about the input characteristics of the IGBT, this can be understood from the figure which is shown here. Initially, when no voltage is applied to the gate pin, what happens? Initially, I'm not applying any gate voltage to the gate pin. What happens? IGBT is in turn off condition and no current flows through the collector pin. Is it or not? When the voltage applied to the gate pin exceeds, so what happens when the when the voltage is applied to the gate pin? The threshold voltage gate pin exceeds the threshold voltage, the IGBT starts conducting and the collector current IG starts to flow between the collector and emitter terminals. So the collector current increases with respect to the gate voltage as shown in figure. Is it or not? As the gate pin is increased, as the gate voltage is increased, the collector current increases with respect to the gate voltage. So this is about the input characteristics what we're having. Now the output characteristics of IGBT having 3 stages. So now we look into the output characteristics of IGBT, which having a 3 stages. Initially, when the gate VGE is 0, when the gate voltage, we are not applied any gate voltage, when VGE is 0, the device is in a off state. This is called the cutoff region. When VGE is increased, and if it is less than the threshold voltage, then there will be a small leakage current flowing through the device, but the device will be still in the cutoff region. When the VG is increased behind the threshold voltage, the device goes into the active region and the current flowing through the device. So what happens here? When the gate voltage is increased behind the threshold voltage, the device goes into the active region and the current starts flowing through the device. The flow of current will increases with an increase. The flow of current will increase with an increase in the voltage in the gate voltage, which is shown in the graph here. So this is about the output characteristics of the IGBT. So now when we talk about the applications of the IGBT, so particularly these IGBTs are used in various applications such as AC and DC motor drives, unregulated power supplies, switched mode power supplies, traction motor control, and induction heating, inverters, and also used to combine an isolated gate FET for the control input and bipolar transistors as a switch in a single device. So these are the applications what we're having in the case of a IGBT. So for now, today actually we have a introduction session for introduction class. So for now, I'm stopping here. For now, today we'll stop here. In the next class, we'll focus on some more features of this IGBT, and also we'll discuss about this another semiconductor devices. For now, I will stop here, and I will also share the materials which today what we have discussed with you as a with you. Okay, for now I will turning off. Thank you everyone.